The shouting started the second he saw my nameplate. My office door swung open, and a guy stormed in, breathless, wide-eyed, like he'd just run from something. But when his gaze landed on the polished silver plate on my desk, his whole expression twisted. Claire Hayes, Operations Director. He stumbled back, gripping the doorknob. What are you doing here?" he yelled, voice echoing off the glass walls. "Logan Price. My sister's boyfriend. The same man my parents had practically rolled out a red carpet for earlier that day." I didn't move. I didn't flinch. I simply leaned back in my chair and tapped my pen once against his resume, lying open on my desk. Funny how life works. 8 hours earlier, I'd been the spare daughter. 8 hours later, I was the person who controlled his entire interview. And he had no idea until now. But if he wanted to scream, he came to the right place. It started that morning because my family never disappoints when it comes to chaos. I'd come home from my shift at the company, ready to shower and grab a quick rest before my evening meetings. Instead, I found my bedroom door wide open, and my life boxed up like a charity donation. Plastic containers stacked in the hallway. My clothes shoved into them like trash. My books thrown in piles. My dresser emptied. My room empty. I stopped cold. What is this? Mom spun around with that fake bright smile she used when she'd already made a decision without me. "Oh, good, you're home. We made some changes to help everyone out." Dad appeared behind her, wiping grease from his hands.
"Yeah, sweetheart.
"We moved your stuff downstairs. Basement's all set for you." "The basement," I repeated slowly. "You've got that little window," Mom said cheerfully. "Let's natural light in." "That window leaks every time it rains," I said. She waved a hand. "We'll fix it another time." I looked back at my empty room again. I'd slept there for 22 years. The posters I bought with birthday money were missing. The bed I saved for in college gone. Everything that made it mine gone. "Why?" I finally asked. Dad sighed like I was being difficult. "Your sister's boyfriend's moving in. He needs a stable place to get back on his feet." And right on cue, Brianna walked in wearing Logan's hoodie, like a trophy. "We didn't want him stressed," she said, shrugging proudly. "He deserves support. You understand, right, Claire?" Mom added, "You're grown now. You're always at work anyway." It made more sense. Dad finished it off. "We thought you'd be mature about this." There it was. The sentence they always used right before treating me like I didn't matter. I stared at all three of them. Brianna texting, Dad avoiding eye contact, Mom smiling like she hadn't just pushed me out of my own space.
I didn't yell, didn't fight, didn't defend myself.
"Okay," I said quietly. Mom beamed. "I knew you'd understand. Logan will be so thankful." I didn't answer, because I already knew something they didn't. I wasn't staying in that basement, or that house. I went straight to my car, drove downtown, and unlocked the door to the apartment they didn't know I had. A clean couch, a working kitchen, a bed that was actually mine. I tossed my keys on the counter and opened my work laptop. New email. Final interview, 9 p.m. Candidate, Logan Price. Referred by Brianna Hayes. I froze, then laughed. Of all the companies in the city, of all the departments, of all the hiring managers, he applied to mine. He didn't even know what I did for a living. To my family, my job was just office stuff. They had no idea I managed a whole team, controlled hiring decisions, and signed off on half the operations budgets. Logan was walking straight into the one place where I finally had power. Not petty power. Not revenge for revenge's sake. But real accountability. Something my family never gave me. I grabbed my blazer, tied up my hair, and went right back to the office. When security called up, "Your 9 p.m. interview is here," I already knew who it was. He strutted in first, talking like he owned the building. "Yeah, my girlfriend knows someone here, so I'm basically set. Just need to show up." Then he saw me, and the screaming started. I lifted his resume. "Good evening, Mr. Price," I said coolly. "Have a seat. The interview begins now." His face drained white, because for the first time in his life, Someone he underestimated had the upper hand. Logan didn't sit. He just stood there, frozen, like his brain was glitching. You're the director? He stammered. Claire, come on.
You work at some computer desk.
Brianna said you just do paperwork. I lifted one eyebrow. Then this will be educational. I gestured to the chair again. Sit. He sank into it slowly, gripping the armrests like the seat might eject him. I opened his file. So, Mr. Price, according to your resume, you left your last job because your manager didn't respect your talent.
Can you explain that?
Logan blinked. Well, he yelled at me for being late. How late? I asked. He hesitated. Couple hours. I kept my voice calm. And how often were you late by multiple hours? He swallowed. Sometimes. I checked a box on the form. He watched me like each checkmark was a nail sealing his fate. Okay, I continued. Next question. Describe a time you showed initiative in a work environment. He opened his mouth, closed it, shrugged. I usually just do what people tell me. Nothing wrong with that, I said. But this position requires independent decision-making. Oh, he murmured. I went through the remaining questions, each answer weaker than the last. He wasn't rude, just unprepared, unfocused, and clearly convinced the job was a guaranteed favor from my family. But favors don't exist in my department. When we finished, I closed the file softly. Logan jumped at the sound. So, did I get it? He asked quickly. I know you're probably mad about earlier, but Brianna said your family doesn't hold grudges. I leaned forward, hands clasped on my desk. Logan, I said carefully, you didn't qualify for this position. Not because I dislike you. Not because of what happened today. You simply don't meet the requirements. He blinked rapidly. But I need this. Your family said you'd help me. My job, I said evenly, is not to hand out roles because someone wants them. My job is to protect this company. And I take that very seriously. Logan's jaw clenched. So you're punishing me because your parents asked me to move in? I kept my voice steady. I'm not punishing you. I'm doing my job. He stood abruptly, chair scraping back. Brianna's gonna freak out. Your parents are gonna flip. They said you'd finally be useful.
Ah.
There it was. The truth. I didn't rise to his anger. Instead, I opened my laptop and typed a note to HR about the interview being completed professionally. Logan watched me, breathing hard, realizing I wasn't changing my mind. Good night, Mr. Price, I said calmly. Security will escort you down. He stormed out, furious footsteps echoing down the hall. The moment he disappeared, my shoulders finally dropped. Not from guilt, just from the weight of years of being underestimated. For the first time, I felt something new, something warm, something powerful. I wasn't powerless anymore. 20 minutes later, after the building grew quiet again, I finally checked my phone. And the notifications flooded in. From Mom. Where are you? Logan said he saw you at work? Call me. From Dad. We need to talk tonight. Why are you being difficult? From Brianna. What did you do? Logan said you humiliated him. I stared at the messages one by one, then typed 3 calm words. I moved out. I set the phone down, locked my office, and walked toward the elevator feeling lighter than I had in years. My family had given my room away, but tonight, I'd taken back more than a room. I'd taken back myself. My phone buzzed nonstop the entire drive home. Brianna called first, then Mom, then Dad. 10 calls, 15, 20. I didn't answer a single one. By the time I reached my apartment, a string of texts waited for me, each one louder than the last. From Mom. Claire, this is childish. Come home. From Dad. We didn't kick you out. You overreacted. From Brianna. Answer me. You made Logan cry. That one actually made me laugh. Logan, the guy who yelled in my office like a fire alarm, crying because the world didn't hand him a job. I tossed my keys onto the counter and went straight to the shower, letting the hot water wash the day off me. When I stepped out, wrapped in a towel, my phone lit up again. This time, from an unknown number. Claire? This is Mrs. Turner. I'm sorry it's late, but are you the Claire who used to help in the community tutoring center? I blinked in surprise. Mrs. Turner hadn't contacted me in years. I texted back. Yes, that's me. She replied instantly. We're hiring a new coordinator. You were always our strongest volunteer. If you want the role, it's yours. My breath caught. Coordinator, not a volunteer. An actual paid role at a place I cared about. I sat on the edge of the couch, reading the message over and over. I already loved my corporate job. But this was personal. This was meaningful. I typed back. Can we meet tomorrow? Absolutely. I smiled at my phone, something warm unfolding in my chest. My life was expanding, not shrinking like my family insisted. They'd shoved me toward the basement, yet I'd somehow stepped upward. My phone buzzed again. This time, a video call.
Mom.
I sighed and declined. Immediately another came through, Dad. Then Brianna. And finally, Mom again. I answered that one. If only for closure. Mom's face popped up, dramatic as ever, eyes wide like she was auditioning for a soap opera. Claire Hayes, she shouted. What is wrong with you today? Mom, I said calmly. What do you want? We heard what happened at your office, she snapped. Logan said you embarrassed him on purpose. No, I said. He embarrassed himself by applying for a job he wasn't qualified for. Mom waved this off. You could have helped him. I'm not paid to hand out jobs, I said. I'm paid to hire professionals. Dad suddenly appeared in the frame, forehead creased. You hurt your sister. She's crying. Brianna's voice yelled from somewhere off-screen. She ruined everything. Dad sighed dramatically. Just come home and apologize. I stared at them, these people who had packed my belongings without blinking, waiting for me to fix a problem they created. No, I said simply. I don't live there anymore. Mom gasped. You're abandoning your family? You abandoned me first, I replied. Remember the basement? Dad scoffed. You're being dramatic. And you're being disrespectful, I said. Good night. I hung up before they could say another word. Silence washed over my apartment. Real silence. Not guilt. Not pressure. Not manipulation. Just peace. The next morning, I got up earlier than usual, put on a soft blue blouse, tied my hair up, and walked to the tutoring center. Mrs. Turner greeted me with a smile and open arms. Claire, you've always had a good heart, she said, guiding me inside. This program needs leadership. And from what I've heard, you've grown into someone strong. I felt the compliment all the way down to my bones. I filled out some forms, walked through the classrooms, spoke to the staff, and by noon, the job was officially mine. One more step forward. One more door my family never knew existed. That afternoon, I sat on a bench near the center, sunlight hitting my shoulders, watching kids play outside. My phone buzzed again. A single message. From Brianna. Logan left. He said, he can't live in a house where you exist. I stared at the text, then smiled slowly. That was the first good news my sister had ever delivered. The moment I read Brianna's message, Logan left. He said, he can't live in a house where you exist. I expected to feel guilt, but instead, I felt absolutely nothing. No sadness. No regret. Just a clean, crisp silence inside me. My sister had spent years acting like I was a shadow in my own family. Now she was shocked that her boyfriend ran away the second he couldn't leech off anyone. I slipped my phone into my bag and headed toward my car. I had a tutoring staff meeting in the afternoon and an operations conference call in the evening. My life was full without them. When I got home that night, groceries in one hand and my laptop bag in the other, someone was waiting in the hallway outside my apartment.
Mom.
Her arms were crossed, her purse hanging from her elbow, foot tapping like she'd been rehearsing an argument the whole drive here. There you are, she said sharply. Do you know what you've done? I unlocked my door. Mom, I just got off a 12-hour day. Can this wait? No, it cannot wait, she insisted, following me inside uninvited. Your father is furious. Brianna's devastated. And Logan, well, he's talking about moving out of state. I set my groceries on the counter. Sounds like a great plan for him. Mom gasped. Claire, that boy was supposed to be part of this family. He never had a job. I replied calmly. He didn't even qualify for one at my workplace. That's not the point, she snapped. The point is you embarrassed him and now he's gone. I faced her fully. And you're upset because? You wanted him living in my room? In the house where I paid utilities? In a space that was mine before he even existed in your world. Mom flinched. We were helping him. And you refused to help me, I said. You didn't ask. You didn't talk. You treated me like spare storage. Mom's eyes flickered, not with understanding, but with panic. So this is it, she asked. You're refusing to come home unless Logan comes back? I laughed softly.
No, Mom.
I'm not coming home because I don't need to. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me.
What happened to you?
You used to be so quiet, so agreeable. That was your version of me, I said. Not mine. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then her voice dropped to a small, shaky tone. Your father misses you. He misses convenience, I corrected. Not me. That finally shut her up. She looked around my apartment. The tidy shelves, my framed certificates, the comfortable couch. A life she didn't know I had. A life I built alone. You really moved on, she said quietly. I really did. Her shoulders deflated. She picked up her purse. Well, your sister doesn't want to talk to you. That's okay, I replied. I wish her well. She hesitated again, then turned and walked out. When the door clicked shut, the silence wasn't painful. It was peaceful. 2 weeks passed before I heard from any of them again. During those 2 weeks, I settled into my new coordinator role. My work team gave me a shout-out during the monthly meeting. I bought new furniture for my apartment. I slept without guilt. I ate meals without criticism. I lived like a human being, not a placeholder. Then one afternoon, I got a text from Dad. Come to the house. We need to show you something. No apologies. No warmth. Just an instruction. But something told me to go. When I arrived, I found Brianna sitting on the couch, arms crossed, eyes swollen like she'd been crying for hours. Mom and Dad stood behind her. What's going on? I asked. Dad gestured toward the hallway. Go see. I walked down the hall, toward my old bedroom. The door was open. Inside was everything I used to have. My bed, remade. My bookshelves, refilled. My desk, polished. The posters I loved, rehung. Even a fresh vase of flowers on the nightstand. They had rebuilt it. Claire, Mom said softly behind me, we were wrong. Dad nodded stiffly. We shouldn't have taken your room. We should have talked to you. We're sorry. Brianna sniffed. Logan left me. He said he needed someone who could support his lifestyle. I guess you were right. I turned around slowly. Mom's voice shook. We want you back. Not your room.
You.
But only if you want that too. I looked at the room, then at them. And I smiled. I'm not moving back, I said gently. But I forgive you. Relief washed over their faces. Dad exhaled deeply. We'll do better. We promise. I believed him. I hugged them both, hugged Brianna too, and stepped back. I wasn't returning, because I finally had my own life. But I wasn't angry anymore either. My ending wasn't the basement. It was freedom, stability, self-respect, a job I loved, and a family learning how to treat me with care. Everything I deserved.